After 15 exhilarating and triumphant years as a violinist of the Miró Quartet, Sandy Yamamoto has decided to step aside in order to focus on her family. Over her remarkable 15-year tenure, the Miró Quartet has risen to the heights of the international chamber music scene. With Sandy, the quartet won first prizes at the Banff and Naumburg competitions, received the Cleveland Quartet Award, and became the first ever ensemble awarded an Avery Fisher Career Grant. Effective August 15th, 2011, the Miró Quartet announced the appointment of William Fedkenheuer as the quartet's second violinist. The following is an interview that took place between John Largess and Will Fedkenheuer shortly before Christmas.
Well, welcome, Will.
Thank you, John.
Both to this interview and to the Miró String Quartet. I think we're very excited to have you here in this festive holiday atmosphere, giving a chance for our fans and viewers to get to know you a little bit better. You're quite the international superstar, and the Miró Quartet is grateful to have you as a new member, but I'm sure it wasn't always that way. You know, how did it all begin? How did the William Fedkenheuer story begin?
Oh, John, it started when I was a young boy in
a lass.
A lass.
Oh,
a lad. I would be a lad.
You were a lad. Wow, I didn't realize the story was quite as interesting as
started,
that.
John, when I was a young lad in the lands of Canada.
The lands of Canada.
Was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and shortly after moved to Calgary, Alberta, where I grew up. I played the violin at a very young age. Started, I think, at 4 because my sister played the violin, and my mother also thought it would be a good thing for me to play for some discipline and some order in my life. You know, things from there went forward. I went to Rice University, did an undergrad there with Kathleen Winkler, and also then went on. I began a master's degree at Indiana University under Miriam Fried, but in the middle of that was offered a position in the Borromeo String Quartet. And
fascinating.
Played with them and performed around the world with them for a number of years.
A meteoric rise to fame.
It went very, very quickly. I was very fortunate, very lucky.
Well, so you mentioned that you started playing the violin at the age of 4. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started actually in Suzuki. Both of my parents, neither of my parents, I should say, are musicians. They both grew up on farms, and but grew up loving music. And I have an older sister, Liesel, who was about 4 years older, and she had started the violin before me. And so I started with Suzuki, and I very quickly went through a number of different Suzuki teachers for various reasons.
You went through them?
Well, perhaps
they dropped you. In other words.
Well, that would probably be the right way to put it.
After a month, they're like, I think we're through.
You should really
we're done.
On.
Have you not heard about Mrs. Parsons down the street? I think she'd love you. Bye. Kaboom.
So, what happened in the end was actually there was a music conservatory on the other side of town called Mount Royal Conservatory of Music. How about that?
And your teacher on the west side of town decided to send you to the other side of town.
Well, at such a young age, I don't know exactly how it worked. That one could probably guess that. And there was a teacher there named Joan Barrett, and she and I, after just a few moments, few weeks, I guess, of lessons together, she sat me down and recognized that perhaps I wasn't as excited about the violin as a young child might be, but the deal was that we would...
Young children are often extremely excited by the violin.
And
actually, believe it or not, that seems to be the case.
I think so. And what we did is we actually did fiddle tunes, country western fiddle tunes for a number of weeks, and that then turned into something that I really loved, and I happened to be quite good at it, as it turns out.
In fact, as our audience might be interested in knowing, it turned into this. Tell us about this.
Well, it's a group called the Calgary Fiddlers, and Calgary Fiddlers is still in existence. They're still making recordings, and this was in the very early stages. I believe they actually were founded in 1979, and I joined them about 1983, 84. And they're a group of at that time, I think about 12 young performers, normally aged 12 to 18, but I joined them when I was 7 and a half, I believe.
You have played other quartets.
I
You
have.
played in the Fry Street Quartet as a first violinist.
Yeah.
You played in the Miró Quartet as a second violinist.
That's correct.
Do you find that there's any identity crisis between first and second violin now that you're playing second violin mostly?
You know, I mean, it pops up once in a while when the part I go to play is the first violin part. But I think what's amazing to me about it, I've never preferred one over the other. They're very different roles. They serve such a different importance to the quartet.
Mm-hmm.
And actually it's been really amazing coming back to the second violin position after 5 years of really serious professional playing in that first violin role. And brought a different perspective to the time also that I was in the Borromeo playing the second violin.
Well, tell us a little bit, as we wrap this up, what your impression of the audition for the Miró String Quartet was like. It was quite, I understand, having been one of the auditioners, it was quite a arduous and large-scale audition. And did you hear anything about any of the other applicants or auditioners for the quartet?
You know, I've only been hearing bits and pieces, and I mean the quartet has been so great about confidentiality and keeping the fairness involved. I can only speak from my own experience how, you know, it was a lot of pressure, and you could tell from the minute you walked in the room how intense and how high of a level was expected, both of the quartet itself, but of the auditionee coming in. And so you guys have been really great about just keeping that all to yourselves. But you know, I can only imagine. There's always a little bit of me that imagines I'm really only getting part of the story.
One can only imagine.
It was really a great process. We were pretty lucky with the level of players we got, and often we knew what we were dealing with quite quickly.
Guys, I think it's time for lunch.
But we just started. I'm really, really hungry.
Really hungry.
Yeah, sometimes it was really quick.
But we really lucked out when it came to the professionalism of the candidates. Most of them were well prepared and ready to go.
Hi, it's Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
Thanks for coming.
Have a seat.
All right, let's start with the problem, shall we? Okay.
Okay.
Ginger, you need a bow?
A bow? Oh.
You know, one of these?
Oh, yeah, a bow. Sorry.
Why don't you borrow one of mine?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, okay. Most of them were prepared.
And there were sometimes unexpected moments in their playing, and just as we always do in chamber music, we tried to adjust for it as quickly as we could.
I can pay for that.
Just leave. Just leave.
Get out. You never knew what was going to happen, but eventually we did find our guy.
Hi.